Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next episode of Big Bold You, a show that is dedicated to inspiring everyone out there, and yes, I mean you, to play bigger, be bolder, and become the best version of yourself so you can turn around and bless this world with your greatness. Because believe it or not, we live in a world where there is a war between good and evil. It has been that way for thousands of years. It's going to be that way for many more years to come. And the only way that evil wins is when good people like you, like me, like our incredible guest over here, Howard, when we don't do enough. Evil wins. So there's so many incredible good people out there. And what we're doing here on this show is highlighting the incredible people that we have here. And I've got somebody that is joining us today that is a dear friend of mine. I actually went to college with him, Howard Ashkinos. Is it with it? Do I say S at the end or just Ashkinos?
Ashkinos.
I have to say the S.
You had it perfect.
Okay, here he is. And I'm telling you, everybody's going to fall in love with this guy because...
Man, you are...
Well, here's the deal.
You're way overplaying this.
Everybody lower your expectations, okay? Lower your expectations, but so you can be blown away. But Howard, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's awesome to be here.
And tell everybody about a little bit about you.
Well, I mean, what do you want to know? What do you want to know? I am originally from New York. So I grew up here in the neighboring city, our good old country folks in Fort Worth.
That's where I'm from. So we got to give a shout out to Fort Worth.
Or
Arlington Heights. Arlington
Oh, you went
Heights.
to Heights?
Yes, I went to Heights. Heights. Yay.
We went to college together.
All my Yellow Jacket friends out there.
At Texas State. Southwest Texas State.
It was Southwest Texas when we were there.
So my daughter went to Texas State or Southwest Texas State.
Wow, is she still there?
No, she graduated 2 years ago.
Oh my gosh, Howard! How
Yeah,
do you have one that's already out? Well, I have one that's out of college. What am I talking about?
Yeah, my oldest son just turned 28 last 3 days ago.
That's crazy.
So yeah. Anyway, grew up here in Fort Worth. Went back to New York for a little bit. After college, my first stint in college, we may get into some of that here, but
we
went back to New York and then came back to Texas in my mid-20s, and have been home. Texas is my home pretty much. So
okay, now let's talk about just quickly.
Married to an amazing wife.
Yes, Shannon is
kids.
Amazing. Shannon, there she is. There's Shannon right there. She is.
Oh yeah, look at that.
How did you get so lucky, Howard?
Oh,
how did that happen?
The Lord loves me. That's all I can say.
The good Lord above.
The Lord loves me, and He provided.
He did. Now, when, and where did y'all meet?
We met. Well, our story of together is a total God thing because my wife was actually married before her first husband passed away. Actually, my older two kids are from her first marriage.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we met, and I was running the town. This was back in 1993. I'd been home from New York for probably about a year and a half or so. Right. And I was out at a restaurant and with some buddies, and I looked over, saw this good-looking girl, and I said, I got to meet her. Ended up where I knew her husband, her first husband, who had just recently passed away. And so that's came together, and I introduced myself. She actually knew who I was, and not necessarily the best part of me, but she did know who I was.
Howard, there's only good parts of you.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that, but she definitely gave me an opportunity at least to say hello and ask about the two babies, because they were 1 and 2 at the time. And then the rest is history, because I asked her out. We spent almost 4 years together before we got married. But I asked her out, took her to the zoo for our first date with the kids, and we've been together ever since.
She's amazing. Well, and both of you two, how long have you been married now?
21 years this past May.
But you two are really made for each other, and I think that's so special. She's got an incredible heart, and you've got a heart just as big as Texas as well. And but you're both faith-based. But have you always been faith-based like that? I mean, I know we're going to get into a lot of topics here, but...
Well, interesting part of my story, but I'm Jewish, so I'm one of these guys that I have my own title.
Right.
I made my own title. My title for me is a completed Jew. That is, to me, a Jew who gets it. But bottom line, that's a laugh, funny.
Right.
Bottom line is no, I did come into a relationship with Christ, and as a Jewish person, as a Jewish boy, I mean, I grew up in the synagogue, was bar mitzvahed, grew up in a very what we would call a conservative home.
Right.
Probably a little bit leaning towards wannabe Orthodox. Just didn't want to go that next step.
That extreme.
That next step that it takes. But grew up in the Jewish faith. Was amazing. Had amazing people around me. My rabbi who taught me my bar mitzvah was just an incredible man. And but no, it was funny because it wasn't until when I met Shannon, 1993. I'm 26 years old. She was actually only the second person in my life, in my world, to ever talk to me about who Yeshua, who Christ was. And of course, there were a lot of arguments, a lot of debates, a lot of fighting, and that's pretty much it. To not go too deep from that standpoint, it's just that, the next 3.5 years was spent really just kind of wandering, seeking, and then I finally, it was really after a conversation that I had with my rabbi that I sat down and I said, God, what do you want from me? And he just asked me to trust him.
Right.
And that's how our relationship began.
When
I listened to him and finally received his call to me, which was to just trust him.
Right. What's so interesting is you said, okay, you were 26 years old, and you'd only had two people have that deep conversation with you.
One person prior to 26 until Shannon. Only one person. And I remember that day like it was yesterday.
But what's so crazy is I remember one time I was at an event and I was watching a woman of a different faith, and she said the exact same thing. She said that she had been in the States for like 20-something years. And nobody talked to her about any type of religion because they knew she was Muslim at the time. And they knew she was Muslim. And so I think, there's a lesson in there that says, you know what?
There's a lot of lessons in there.
There are a lot of lessons, but it doesn't matter. People are people. And, our souls are our souls. And we have a desire to be heard, to be loved, and to succeed. I say all the time, we weren't sent to this earth to fail. We were sent here to soar. And we have to share whatever that is. I mean, it doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are. You're an amazing, great person. And I love it that you, at that age, met Shannon and that was really has shaped you in your adult life with what you've done.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I think that ultimately at the end, if you seek, you'll find.
Right, exactly.
It's the seeking that sometimes becomes difficult.
Right.
And it's because of a lot of reasons, whether it's our past or the circumstances that we find ourselves in at the time. But I believe with all my heart that without seeking, you won't find. So seek, and you'll find.
Well, and that's really the
Ask those questions.
Some of the topics there's so many topics that we are going to cover today, but one of the topics is really defining who we are as people and how having that definition of who we really are authentically, how that changes our life, because our life, in my opinion, is determined on the quality of the relationships we have with other people. You can't be on an island by yourself and experience joy and happiness. In my opinion, the way you experience the most joy and happiness is serving others. And I know that you have an incredible servant heart. So, kind of tell us a little bit about, your professional life and your personal life and how your faith and the relationships that you've built, how they kind of merged together and has made you the incredible person that you are.
Oof! Now you're really getting heavy. I mean, I think that ultimately, we are a product of our environment. We learn from our experiences. So, my childhood, it was something that I've shared before. I like to share with folks, especially young kids, because I've always found I'm a coach. I've been a sports coach for over 30 years.
Baseball, right?
I've coached 12 years of football as well, but I coached baseball. Started coaching baseball when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
I wasn't good enough to make to be on the varsity team and play.
Right.
No, I joke about that, but my actual varsity baseball coach actually gave me my first coaching job. And I always say, and I even say this to him because I still see him.
Right.
33 years later.
That's so awesome.
And I tell him, I said, you only got rid of me so that I wouldn't take your job, because he gave me my first.
You were getting really, really good at that.
He gave me my first job. He sent me over to the youth league in the area, and gave me a team. I was 17, and I had a team of 14-year-olds. And that's how I started my career. And forget about it, because at the time, the drinking age was 18. Was 18 at the time. So I was really close to being legal. And actually, during the season, I became legal. But the point is I remember getting a phone call one day from a parent who says, "Hey, Howard, we love you. Everything. Would you mind not bringing your beer to the practice?" That kind of thing. It was in the bottom of the cooler. I said, "Oh, no, I'm sorry, my bad." But no, that's just I started coaching, and I really found, I know that God had laid that in me very early on, and I've been pretty much coaching ever since. Now, I love working with people of all ages, not just kids, but I love working with people. And I had an interview recently where they asked me, what exactly do you see that you do? And it's like, I look at it, the actual word coach is like, you think about old time, right? A stage coach.
Right.
It takes people from one place to another.
Exactly.
And that's exactly all I do. So if I sometimes hear like, oh, I've got a need or I've got a problem, I'm like, okay, well, let's figure out how we can get you from where you are to where you want to be. I'm sometimes much better for other people than I am for myself.
Well, that's normally how it is. I mean, number one, you can't succeed alone. And so you have to be coachable yourself.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what industry you're in.
Yeah.
You have to be coachable, and you have to hitch your wagon to real leaders that can help you along the way. But then we are supposed to help other people. Whether we're supposed to minister, we're supposed to coach, we're supposed to help, and we are taking them from one place to another place.
Right.
I mean, that's what we do. And I have just a personal special place in my heart for kids.
Yeah.
I love kids. I'm a big for big brothers and big sisters.
I know that.
And you need to become a big, Howard.
I saw you on stage one time with,
you need to become a
with
big.
Miriam.
That's right.
Talking about, you guys were blowing it out.
You know what's interesting, and
be big.
I tell people all the time.
Big.
I've been very blessed. My dad is he was a professional tennis player. And so when we grew up, we had the mindset of a champion, because he just drilled it into our head that success is a decision. Anybody can succeed. You have to work hard. It's not going to come easy. So all of those traits were very, they just came naturally to me, because to your point that you said earlier, it's the environment in which you live. And so I lived in that environment. And I've been very blessed to have had an extreme amount of success in my career, because I've just decided to have success. And so I've been recognized as an award-winning leader, transformational leader, all that. But my biggest, most humbling award was when I got to stand up as a big, because I know that impact that I'm making on children's lives it's a ripple. It's gonna last for years, and that's what you do with your coaching.
Yeah. And baseball was a big focus for me over the 30 plus years. Baseball was a big, probably one of the biggest vehicle, obviously, for that long of a time. And I think that it always struck different chords, different nerves. And I loved, giving, probably more than almost anything, is the kids having an escape.
Right.
It's like, hey, I got to go play baseball. First of all, these kids were blessed to be able to come to an organization and play. And, the organizations that I was a part of were always, great for them in raising them as good young men. And so that was a really cool part. It's interesting, though, when you were saying this a second ago, even specifically kids, I've actually found myself a little bit in later years, not so much not wanting to be with the kids anymore, but I sometimes feel like I've raised a crap load of kids.
You have, Howard. I have no doubt you have.
Sometimes I find myself going, when they go like, hey, do you want to come to this party, or you want to come here? And I'm like, are there kids there? Because I've already raised a lot of kids.
You're about kidded
and
out.
I feel bad sometimes, especially like with family.
Well,
I'm like
now,
going,
is this your family? Is this your family?
Oh,
right
yeah,
here?
yeah. That is my family.
That's your family.
And there's kids there.
And you've helped raise a lot of them.
And actually, those are the ones I probably had least amount of time with. But the time will come. I know that as I've aged now, I've gotten older, I will definitely. It's really up until about 5 or 6 that I probably don't want to be bothered right now.
Right, and then afterwards.
After that, I'm ready to go.
Well, now
I have a grandson. I have a grandson.
I didn't
he's
know
4.
that,
He's Kyler. Actually,
Howard.
I took him out a couple of days ago, and we went for breakfast. And I took him. I said, "What do you want?" His favorite thing is pancakes. He didn't eat pancakes because I got him this gigantic cinnamon roll that he fell in love with.
Yeah, well, you're not supposed to give him the cinnamon roll first, Howard.
Oh, it was awesome. He took the pancake home. He took the pancake
But
home.
I was going to say, if you gave me the cinnamon roll
Madison, you have to
first,
tell me if
you
did he
gave
eat
me
it.
the cinnamon roll first, I would eat the cinnamon roll and forget the pancakes.
Yeah, but when it comes to the leaders, though, I do again believe that there's people around each of us.
Oh, 100%.
And there was without a doubt, I wouldn't be anything, half the person I am without the great people. And I'm talking about from an early age.
Right.
And there's blessings in our lives that we don't necessarily see at the time.
Yes.
And I think I've mentioned this to you, one of our calls or something, that I firmly believe that it's actually through the lowest parts of our downtimes.
Oh, absolutely.
When we learn,
you
the
learn
most.
It's what makes you stronger. I always say,
Yeah.
you know that saying, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
yeah.
And the reason for that is because if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. I mean, it's the truth.
There's a song, right?
I think there
What
is a strong.
doesn't kill you make you stronger.
Well, I know that was our last show, but I want you to
singing.
speak to the fact that you lost your father. What age were you when that happened, and what was that impact? Because I think it's really important for. I always say the boys, the men, and the women that love the boys and men to hear the impact of not having that father figure, and really who stepped in to help with that role.
Well, a lot of people stepped in, and the interesting part is that you don't know. Most people didn't. Very few. My fraternity brothers, my pledge brothers for sure.
I was a little sister of your fraternity.
I know.
Just
But my boys there, and most of my close friends in high school growing up, most of them knew that I didn't have my father in my life. So my mom chose to remarry after my father and her got a divorce, and that's when we relocated to Texas. So I was 9 years old, but from the time I was 3 was the last time I saw my dad. So I never really had my father in my life.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you how it works. So
I see.
my mom leaves my dad.
Right.
Kind of one of those stories.
Right.
And boom, she remarries. My stepfather basically was my dad my
Okay.
entire life.
I got you.
We moved to Texas when I was 9, and from 9 until I went to college, till basically when you and I met, that was my life. Okay. It was my freshman year in college. I was in my dorm room, and my mom calls me, and we didn't have cell phones.
Right.
My mom calls me, and I'm at the room, and she says, "Hey, you're going to get a phone call tonight from your dad. I just wanted to prepare you." And something through the years, I have an older sister, 3 years older than me. She and I had multiple times through our lives had talked about it. So we knew we had a dad.
But you just never.
We just never knew him.
You just never. I mean, did he not want to have?
You know, it's a
You
great
just don't
question.
know.
No, we do know, because
Okay.
what happened is that I spoke to my dad that evening, and it was actually next month. Next month will be, this was 1987, so whatever that is, 31 years ago. It'll be 31 years ago, yeah. That I had this conversation, and it was as if we had never been apart.
Wow.
We saw each other. We got to meet.
Wow.
We got to meet 2 months later. He came in for like right after New Year's, and we spent like all night together, telling stories and laughing and crying and the whole deal. And it was literally like I had my best friend in my world.
Now, is this your dad right here? Is this a picture of your dad?
That is my dad. Yeah, look at that picture.
I mean, listen, that's what you looked like when I met you.
That is my.
How
well, that's
old
me.
I know. How old were you in that picture?
So that was in college.
Okay, that
was me in college. I was
That's
20.
the Howard that
That's
I
the Howard
remember.
that you knew.
That I
little baby face. I was 165 pounds, dripping wet, and just crazy. But that's my pops. And when it comes to that, I believe there's a lot of my dad that I know that I have, and there's obviously things that growing up I had picked up different characteristics and traits and all these kinds of things. But he was amazing. He never met a stranger. And I'm thankful
that's
that
how
I
you
think,
are.
I do believe I'm thankful that I got that from him.
Right.
He never made a stranger. That guy would walk into a coffee shop or into a restaurant, and everybody knew Jerry. Everybody knew my pops. And he made everybody smile and everybody feel good. And that was his goal in life, I think.
I know.
That was his purpose in life, was everywhere he went, that he would make people smile and laugh, and he would know their names.
That's exactly how my dad is.
It's just the way he was.
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity that was 1988 when we first met, and I moved 1987. I moved shortly after that. I left college at Texas State, Southwest Texas State, and I moved to New York to get into the family business kind of deal. Now, this was a family that I had not seen in my entire life.
To do with, right.
In my entire life. So it was an Oprah Winfrey story.
Right.
Okay, we were reunited. My sister and I fly to New York.
Right.
And long story short, we fly to New York. We're basically VIPs. We're celebrities because there's family, cousins, I mean, everybody, for grandmas, the whole deal, aunts, uncles, the whole deal. Hadn't seen. My dad had 2 other brothers. We were literally coming off. I'm getting in, of all places, New York City.
Right.
So when my time in New York was not spent as a normal single guy, my time spent was with my dad and my family, and it was just amazing. And unfortunately, we lost my dad in '93. I met Shannon in August, and my father passed away in November.
But how awesome was it that you got that time with them?
It was amazing. It was 6 years. What is it? Basically 6 years. Yep, 6 years.
Okay, and so the time that you spent up there, I mean, I know he worked a little bit at Saturday Night Live, and if we have time, we're going to get into that, but we might not this time around. But tell me some of the things that you remember the most about that time with your dad.
Oh man, just being like, he was literally like my best friend. You know, he was my best friend. So, you know, that was the best part of it.
Right.
Just getting a chance to spend, you know, every day that I could, you know, with him. Of course, didn't know that it was not necessarily going to be an extended period of time, but just having my dad in my life was just amazing.
But you know what I think is so important is that we
You gotta be careful because I might get emotional.
I know, but you know, but I think
you didn't
it's
tell me this was part of the deal.
Well, I think it's because you're so real and you're so authentic. But I think it's important that, you know, we have to stop in life. And to your point where you had this opportunity to go up there, you could have said no. You could have said, no, you know, I'm here. I'm having a great time. I'm going to do it. But we have opportunities, and we really do have to go with that, with that feeling, with that what we're compelled to do, because so many times we're being compelled to do something because of what's going to happen 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the road. And I think that so many times people second guess those feelings, and you just got to go with them.
I can tell you something too, Jens, as you say that. We control what we focus on.
100%.
And so, for whatever reason, I'm not saying that I really don't even think that I am or was at that time for sure the wisest person in the world, but something in me, something that God had given me, and He said, the questions of why, you know, like you even asked, because it's a common question.
Right.
You know, where was he? Where were we? What happened in that scenario? Those questions actually never really even entered into our relationship ever. We met the one day and we spoke all night, and maybe he explained to me what took place. And I say maybe because it's not even a part of my real recollection.
Right.
There was so much. We didn't sleep all night, and we laughed and we cried and everything. But all the time, and even to this day, I don't blame my mom.
No.
I don't blame my dad. I don't look for a reason why this happened or this happened. Look, I was very blessed and fortunate to even have my stepfather who, for all the faults that maybe there were there in a non-fatherly, a non-loving relationship, which it was, but he provided.
Right.
I wasn't short. I had a roof over my head. I had food every night. I was able to go to school. I met great people. Matter of fact, it kind of even goes into a story when it comes to how we grow from those low times or those things that maybe aren't the best scenarios. Because I think that at an early age, I was 10 years old, just barely new into Texas. At 10 years old, my mom and my stepdad, which he wasn't a stepdad to me, he was basically the only dad I had. He was my dad. My mom and my stepdad, though, sent me away to Colorado for summer camp. And I literally left from grade school, from 10 years old until 17. I got on a plane by myself the week school got over, and I came back to Texas from Colorado the week before school started.
You would be gone all summer long.
All summer long. Now, I think that my stepdad just wanted the heck to get rid of me, right?
You kind of can relate to that now.
Whatever it was, exactly. Whatever it was a blessing in disguise, because it was at camp from 10 to definitely through 16 that I learned, number one, how to be independent, how to be a free thinker, how to build relationships on my own without somebody saying,
go talk to so-and-so, shake their hand.
Yeah, like literally pushing your kid, like, go do this. Or when somebody walks in the door, this kind of drives me nuts a little bit. And I hope whoever's listening doesn't take it personal if it strikes a chord. But it kind of drives me nuts when somebody sees somebody and the parent says, you need to go over and say hello. Look them in the eye and say,
shake their hand.
We'll figure it out. We'll get through it. It'll be okay.
Right.
Don't worry about it. Like, I look at the kid, I was like, don't worry about it.
Right.
You know, there's a time for respect and learn, but let's build a relationship first, because to me, that's what it's at. So I had a great mentor. You talk about mentors. There's absolutely no doubt that the mentors in my life, God gave me every one of them. And one of the biggest one was a guy by the name of Jim. Jim, you're probably going to watch this, I know. We have, matter of fact, you got a birthday coming up, so it's our annual call. We call each other to this day. I met him at 10 years old.
Oh, that's awesome.
I met him at 10 years old, and we made a pact that we would always call each other on our birthdays.
That's
so I now have to send this to Jim.
Yeah, of course, Jim's got to listen.
Jim's going to listen, and he's going to cry.
But so here's the thing is, what we're talking about right now, and some of the things that you talked about, we're going to really dig a little bit deeper into, because it goes right along with the Ask Jen's question. And the Ask Jen's question, to me, really speaks to what you're talking about. And that is, what is one thing? And I love it when people ask me one, because one means one. It doesn't mean 2, 3, or 4. What is one thing that I can do to start succeeding faster? And I think one of the most important things that a person can do to start succeeding faster is to stop blaming anyone else. Take 100% accountability for where you are. Realize that it's the decisions that you've made, the things that you've done. But here's the good news. You've made those decisions, and you can make different ones. Don't get bitter, get better, and don't beat yourself up. You know, I think some of the things that you were saying is, it's during the times when we make poor choices, that we make mistakes, that we fall down, that we learn. And then what you said, and I love it, was when you said, I don't blame my dad, I don't blame my mom, I don't blame my stepfather. And when you stop blaming people, there's a power that goes along with that. And it's just acceptance and that power of love and forgiveness. And that, listen, you know, I want to be forgiven for what I've done to people.
You are. And you're amazing.
So you got to forgive other people. And I say all the time, that ability to put yourself in other people's shoes and say, well, gosh, how do I know that I would have done anything differently? You know, you don't know until you walk a mile in somebody's shoes what they've gone through. And you just always have to forgive. And I think that's one of the reasons why you've had so much happiness and so much success in your personal life and in your professional life, is because you've got an incredible attitude, and you don't blame anyone. You take accountability for everything. I know that about you.
I try.
Yeah.
I try, and you're too kind. You're too kind.
I know that about you, though. But let's talk.
That is what we said it ago. It's through those downturns, it's through those down times that we learn the most. So when it comes to your question, I would, that's kind of where I would lead.
Right. Now, tell us just briefly, because we're going to go into the Laughter is the Best Medicine, which is hysterical because it's Howard's family. And I love it when the guests bring their crazy, funny videos, because my family does this kind of stuff all the time. In fact, next week's show is going to be hysterical. The Laughter is the Best Medicine. But tell us what you do professionally.
Yeah, so I'm in real estate. Shannon and I, my wife and I, both started real estate. It was in 1995 when I was searching still and need something. So I made a comment to her one day about getting into real estate, and one of my wise mentors said to me, rather than buying up a bunch of real estate and being in debt and all this kind of stuff, why don't you just go get your real estate license and help people? Because I like to help people anyway. So I thought it was like perfect.
That's exactly right.
So I made the mistake. Well, no, I didn't, because I'm still 23 years later, her and I both are still in real estate. But I said this to Shannon, and the next thing I know, like literally a week later, she says to me, did you go sign up for real estate classes yet? And I said, no. She goes, well, I did. And it was because really of her, which it's still to this day, it kind of is. She really motivates me. I was up at 5 o'clock this morning because I said I was going to the gym.
And she said,
my daughter was already out. My wife was already out the door.
You said you're going to go to the gym this morning, and you said, okay.
Well, she left. And she left at 4:30 to go to the gym. And she says, goodbye, you're supposed to go to the gym. And I was like, okay. And then next thing I know, I had this wonderful text when I came out of working out, and it said, so proud of you, honey.
Oh, but I think it's, this was one of the topics I wanted to talk to you about. And Shannon, we need to have you and Shannon come back next time.
Yeah.
Because I think.
Yeah, we want to talk about that.
Well, I think it's so important that people realize you can be married as long as you want, and having a great marriage is a choice. And you and Shannon have done such a tremendous job doing that. I think that's a gift that you have that you can share. So I do want you to come back.
We definitely, we'll do it together. It's got to be
Shannon,
together.
you have to come back. Shannon, you have to come.
Got to be together, and she's going to keep me in line. But yeah, so we're in real estate 23 years later now. Here we still are now. Our company that we work for, JP and Associates Realtors.
Right.
We just started a franchising program, and that's what we're doing now. So I'm actually a vice president of the franchise development, and we're going across the country to bring this great product, which is kind of changing the way some people do real estate. So it's incredible.
I love it. Okay, now let's look at the laughter. You have 2 laughter is the best medicine videos, because it was kind of set this up for us.
Okay, so this is crazy. So we're going to show both of them. So you got to understand, just put yourself in this picture right now, which is this. I was trying to go Facebook Live for the first time in Facebook history.
It was your very first Facebook Live.
I don't know, 2-3 years ago, whatever this was, when Facebook Live just came out.
Right.
Periscope was this thing or whatever, but I was trying to go live. We just finished with a Ranger game, my wife and I, my son and his friend, and we went to have late night pancakes at the Old South Pancake House
in Fort Worth, Texas.
In Fort Worth, Texas. Plug in.
Yeah.
And I went to do it, and of course, in my goofy, it just happened. It just was the way it was. But here, the setup is I'm trying to go Facebook Live, not having a clue how this technology piece works. I'm trying to do it, and I didn't know, unbeknownst to myself, Shannon was across the table video recording me doing
She was doing a Facebook Live.
She was going to Facebook Live, watching me try to figure out how to go Facebook Live, and you got to.
All right, here we go.
Be close to a restaurant.
We are live at Pancake House. Look, say hi. So we're live. Is anybody out there? We have 2 that have to pee. Jake, how about you?
I peed, I'm good. Get it off me.
German, stop. German. Okay, that's all for now.
4 people watching.
There's 4 people.
Oh my God.
That's all people. Oh, they're. Hey, out there. Somebody message us. Oh, we got likes. Bubbly things. Scotty Gates, what's up, buddy? We love you. Hey, we have not been drinking, I promise.
It's water.
We promise. So that's going on.
Right.
And now the actual.
I don't even see Shannon doing the. Where was she?
Yeah, no, watch. You're going to see. Now, the next one, this is actually before. This is before that event.
Okay, I gotcha.
So this is
the next. Okay.
So the next one is actually the stage that's set up for that.
Okay,
we are live.
Okay.
Microphone on. Was it? It was off. Kabooyah. My microphone was off.
Yes.
Why?
I don't know. Stop recording us.
There we go. Am I live?
Guys, it's a black screen.
Oh, wait a second.
You're just on the homepage.
Okay.
Shoot,
Live. Go to. Describe your video. Freaking Germans invading Fort Worth. Is that how you spell Germans?
Yes.
No, that's not.
Yes, it is. Germans.
Pank. What the?
Just put pancake.
How do you spell
Cake.
That's like my...
Pancake House issues. Go live. 3, 2, 1. We are live.
Don't you love it? Don't you love it that we have these toys?
Oh my gosh.
These are our toys, Howard.
So the part there didn't mean to offend anybody with the German comment, but the thing about that is that the greatest pancake at the Old South Pancake House is called the German pancake. And if you haven't had it, it's to die for. You got to have it. But oh my gosh, it's so. I don't know what it was when we first sat down, but it said something. We were trying to figure something out, right,
Yeah.
Ziggy? We were trying to figure. We were trying to figure out something, and then all of a sudden, I was like, that's not how you do it?" And it was just like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's just the way it is sometimes.
But here's the thing, though: is these are our toys. Don't you remember the Jetsons? Like, I still love to FaceTime people because when you FaceTime people, I feel like it's the Jetsons. So somebody out there, it might as well be us.
Yeah.
We need to make one of those faces. The little mask that you have. So anytime anybody calls you, FaceTimes you, you look beautiful.
Yeah.
Remember when the Jetsons did that?
Yeah, I wasn't a big Jetsons fan. I
Howard.
don't know, but I'm not a big Jetsons fan.
Well, I will tell
That's
you.
the Astro, right? Astro.
Yeah, I don't
The dog.
remember it. Yeah, Astro the dog.
Yeah, I'm a dog freak. So
Ziggy knows. Ziggy knows.
Ziggy was Astro, wasn't it?
It was.
See, Ziggy knows everything. He's like Google.
Ziggy.
He's like Google.
Ziggy's the man.
I know he is the man, but you are the man, and I am so
What's
grateful.
my nickname?
Howard the Badass. I have him programmed in my phone as Howard the Badass because you're just a badass. And we are so grateful that you have come to share just a little bit of your heart.
A little bit.
A little bit of his heart with us and laughter, because I do believe laughter is the best medicine.
It is.
We've got to make this world a better place. One of the things my son says to me all the time is he says, "Mom, you're trying to brainwash people with positivity." And I said, "Yes, I am." So I hope that you have enjoyed the little bit of brainwashing today, and join us next week. If you have had anything, if you've taken anything away from today, please share. Please send it to your friends, to the people that you know need this, and come back and see us next Monday at 3 p.m. So until we meet again, be big, be bold, and most importantly, be you. Bye-bye.